It is never really my intention to get political on this channel. This is an economic and finance channel. With that said, a lot of times politics and finance and economics cross paths. And this post by Donald Trump is one of those instances. So I'm going to read you this post and then we're going to break it down piece by piece because unfortunately, almost everything in this post is a blatant lie. So let me read you this post. This was posted on November 9th, and it's probably one of the craziest things that he has said, even though on the surface, it seems pretty mild in comparison. So he says, people that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are at the highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt. $37 trillion. Record investment in the USA. Plants and factories are going up all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 per person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. So I'm going to go through this piece by piece. A couple of these are a little more serious than the others, but they are all important. So let's go over piece by piece. So first, people that are against tariffs are fools. That is a blanket statement. A lot of economists are against his tariffs in specifics because they tend to tariff everybody with disregard for allies versus foes. And they don't actually seem to, especially his main tariffs, didn't seem to actually address his main issue, which were the United States being taken advantage of. They just tariffed based on trade surpluses or deficits, even though a lot of countries that are smaller are very clearly going to have a trade surplus with the United States. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world. The United States has always been the wealthiest country in the world, not on a per capita basis, but in totality. That is because we have the largest economy in the world. We control pretty much everything through the US dollar being a world reserve currency. That is not a new thing. Us being the most respected country in the world, I don't know if that was ever the case. We are feared because of our economic and our military might, and we are respected by a lot of Western countries for the perceived democracy that we have here. But the most respected country in the world, I'm not sure. With almost no inflation. So this is where we start to get into the serious economic blatant lies. We have 3% inflation on the CPI currently. The Federal Reserve actually predicts an increase or an acceleration of inflation through the rest of the year. The Federal Reserve target is 2% inflation. No inflation or almost no inflation to me, I don't know how else to interpret that, but close to 0%. We're nowhere near that. We're actually 50% higher than where the Federal Reserve wants baseline inflation. So if anything, we have higher than normal inflation. So to say we have no inflation is a blatant lie. And as the President of the United States, I'm sure he knows this. And a record stock market price. The stock market, I've made many videos on this in the past. The stock market by design goes up pretty much every single year unless we are in a recession. And that is because inflation pushes the stock market higher, as well as a built-in requirement in capitalism for the US economy to grow year over year. If that does not happen, everything falls apart. No one can retire, and pretty much the entire system collapses. So by design, the stock market will be higher every single year. So a record stock market price now, it's the same thing as the record stock market price under Joe Biden or under Trump's previous term or under Obama before him. It almost always goes up with the exception of recessions, and usually the stock market only moves down for a few months before returning to an upward movement, even before the recession ends. 401ks are at the highest ever. That is pretty much just repeating the first thing, which is the stock market price, or the stock market is at its highest, because 401ks are heavily tied into the stock market, because almost everyone's 401ks are diversified into index tracking funds, like the VOO, like VTI, like QQQ, and many, many others. So they track broad segments of the market or the entire market in totality. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt, $37 trillion. First, the debt is not $37 trillion, it is $38 trillion. So that is false. Secondly, I would bet pretty much everything I own. I would leverage myself as much as possible if I could make a bet against the fact that we're going to start paying down our enormous $38 trillion debt. In almost no conceivable possible situation or future outcome is that debt going to be less next year than it is today. I would bet everything I own that next year that debt is going to be 39 trillion, 40 trillion. It is in no scenario, in no feasible real world on planet Earth are we going to pay down the national debt. It's just not going to happen. We are taking in trillions of dollars. Now, there's two ways to interpret this. If he means we're taking in trillions of dollars in tariffs, that is just blatantly not true. It has never been the case. It will never be the case. It is just not possible. The economy, we just cannot, even if you tariff the entirety of imports at 100%, it might be a couple trillion. I think it's $4 trillion. It's just not possible to take in that much. The other way to interpret this is that the U.S. government is taking in trillions of dollars in tax revenue, which has always been the case. The U.S. For many years has taken in trillions of dollars. Most recently, it's about $5 trillion per year in taxes. So that is not a new thing. It's always been the case. But that money will not go to pay down the national debt because we run a budget deficit of close to $2 trillion. So it's just not going to happen. Record investment in the USA. Again, this is just a function of a growing economy. Plants and factories are going up all over the place. This is true. This is like the one semi-true statement of the entire thing. That is true. But there are also, plants and factories that are being canceled. Most recently, you have Hyundai basically shuttering its huge investment in the United States because of an ICE raid. Now, I'm not saying that people should be here working without proper documentation. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that some policies that Trump has specifically implemented have also stalled factories going up. Okay, but this is, I'll give him a pass here. And now the final one. A dividend of at least $2,000 per person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Again, I would bet pretty much everything that I own, and I would leverage myself as much as possible, if I could, to bet against this. I don't think that there is a single possible realistic future where every single person, except high-income people, who knows what that means, will receive a $2,000 dividend. I just don't think that's going to happen. It's not going to happen under Trump's term. I don't think it's going to happen before the midterms. I don't think it's going to happen before 2028. I don't think it's going to happen. This was proposed before as well under Doge with Elon Musk's leadership because they were saving so much money. They have not saved enough money to do this per person. It's just not going to happen. And in the off chance, the less than 1% chance that this actually happens, we have seen what this does to the economy. We saw stimulus, direct stimulus into people's pockets. We saw what happened when the pandemic stimulus checks went out. You get massive inflation. And yes, I understand that a lot of that was caused because of supply chain issues. So you have supply chain issues, and then you dump money into everyone's pocket, you're gonna run into massive inflation. That was approaching 9% in 2022. Peak inflation for a long time. If Trump does a $2,000 deposit into everyone's pockets, do we expect 9% inflation? No, we don't, because we don't have supply chain issues right now. But you are going to get an accelerated inflation. I don't think there's any studies that have been done on this because he just posted it, but I would, if I had to fathom, 1 to 2 to 3%. So if inflation somehow magically gets down to the 2% target of the Fed, which I already have made videos saying, I think 3% is going to be the new pseudo target. 2% is not reasonable. But let's say it is 2%, you dump $2,000 in everybody's pocket, that year you're going to experience 4 or 5% inflation. That is just it's just not possible to dump that amount of money into an economy that is not primed and ready for that without experiencing inflation. So it is never my intention on this channel to get political. I don't. I just call things like I see them. I don't like a lot of Trump's economic policies, and I've made that very clear. But if a Democrat was in there and he was doing or she was doing dumb shit, I would also call them out. Kind of like Kamala Harris is wanting to give, I think, $25,000 to first-time homebuyers. Stupid idea. on an economic basis. That is going to increase demand in a market that cannot handle it, and you're going to skyrocket home prices. So I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican. If you have dumb economic policies, they shouldn't be implemented. Basically, this entire Truth Social post is a horrible idea, not to mention filled with either lies, half-truths, or in a worst-case scenario, and I don't think this is the case, the president doesn't understand what he's saying. I don't think that's the case. I think these are just key buzzwords put on a Truth Social post. But basically, none of it is true. That's all I have for you today. If you like personal finance, world economics, investing, you are in the right place. It is difficult to grow here on YouTube. So if this video was informative, if it was blunt to the straight to the point, whether you agree with this or you don't, if this was informative, please consider subscribing. Even if you were a supporter of Trump, that's fine. If you hate Trump, that's fine. Civil discourse is the one thing that is going to solve our problems. I don't mind all Republican economic policies. I don't mind all Democrat economic policies. So if you disagree, that is totally fine. Leave a comment below. I want civil discourse here. Okay. It is difficult to grow here on YouTube. So every subscription means the world to me. I appreciate it. I hope to see you in the next video, which technically they're supposed to be weekly, but we live in a crazy economic world, so it'll probably be much sooner than that. With that said, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.